Thanks for stopping by for another episode of Tomb of Annihilation, but better. Today we're talking about the Death Curse. Ooh, Death Curse. This is the whole point of this adventure, is this Death Curse that's happened. It's the thing that starts it. It's the mystery that has to be solved. It's a terrifying menace that's reaching all the points of Faerun. Everywhere you could go, no one is safe. So the introduction to this adventure talks about the death curse right off the bat. It says that it's a worldwide death curse that not only prevents the raising of dead, but also causes creatures who were previously raised from the dead to wither and die. So that's a pretty scary thing if you think about it in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. It seems like there's always a chance, no matter what adventure you're on, no matter what foe you're fighting, that if your character dies, you fail all your death saves, there's a chance that someone's going to earn enough money and talk to a cleric and talk to a wizard, figure out how to resurrect you and get you right back into the game. One of the great things about this campaign is that it just takes that right off the table. Like, there are no do-overs, and I love that. It makes everything, it raises the stakes on everything. So that is a great hook, and I'm super excited that they put it together. And then the whole mystery of it is why, what's causing that? And as you go down the line, you find out, okay, there's a thing called the Soulmonger that's taken them. Well, who built the Soulmonger? Well, we're not quite sure. Well, why would they build such a thing? And then every faction has their own little version of, from everywhere from destroy it, it's evil, it's got to be destroyed, to, I wonder if we could harness that power and build upon our own empire or our own ambitions. What a great hook. What a great premise. Start things off. There's a few things that I would do differently, and I in fact did do differently in my campaign. Today I just want to talk real quick about the things that I would do to up the ante on the old Death Curse. I've mentioned previously that there are a lot of great videos, a lot of great contributors on YouTube already that have talked about the Death Curse. There's a lot of things that I'm doing that I did in this campaign that are versions of things that they put out there. So always seek out other sources. There's so much content. As fun as I am to listen to, there are other things, and I want to make sure you're out there and find all the possibilities. So there may be some things on here, some of the things that I've done for the Death Curse that you've heard before in other videos. I think that's great. I think we could all. This is such a great community where we can share ideas and where we can have, maybe it's not the exact same idea, but it sparks you to do your own little twist on it. See, I think that's awesome. I think that's how we ought to be. So let me tell you a few things about how I ran the Death Curse in my campaign. So first of all, it very much is a worldwide problem. This is not just a Chult problem. And I try to make my players very aware that, none of the characters that they created are from Chult. So if this was a Chult only problem, it would not be, it wouldn't be quite as big a hook to them. They don't have much skin in the game. If they hate the Death Curse and don't want it, they can just go home. So I wanted to make sure, and that's as written. So this isn't a change, but I reiterated that as much as I could, that this is not a Port Nyanzaro problem. This is a whole world problem, and it's got to be solved. And if not, they can run, but they can't hide from it. Second, I really wanted this curse to feel a lot more like a zombie apocalypse. As written, it affects people who have been raised in the past. They are withering away and dying, and then it won't let new people be raised. So those are scary, like I mentioned, but I wanted to make it even more terrifying in that people who were dying during the Death Curse, their bodies were being raised as zombies. So you have a whole zombie apocalypse angle to this, which I thought added a whole lot more drama, had a whole lot more situations that I could kind of cultivate and make even more terrifying than is written, and just a lot more motivation. Let's take Camp Vengeance, for example, and I'll talk later in a video about how I kind of upgraded the whole Camp Vengeance situation. But the cool thing about that is they're all, you're inside a fortification that seems like it's going to keep the undead out, but within that stockade there's an infirmary. And a couple of those patients died, and they come back as zombies. So you're fighting outside the walls, and then you turn around, and the infirmary is lighting up with with undead coming after you, which is was such a cool moment. In the book, the death curse does talk about kind of some bruising, or so there are some physical signs that you are affected by the death curse. I like that it doesn't affect people at the same rate. So there are people that could be afflicted by it. So that's the whole point that Sindra Sylvain wants you to do this quest. Is she is afflicted by it, and she's trying to find the answer, but she can't do it because she's afflicted with it. And really, kind of a side note, that's such a cool way to make this campaign make sense, that you're starting out as a low level character and trying to save the world. A lot of times it always seems odd that whatever happens, it's all on this little level 1 band of adventurers. Why wouldn't they, if the death curse was happening, why aren't they calling the level 20s of the world? Why aren't they calling the Avengers to be like, here's the problem, go solve it, right? But what the death curse does is a lot of those folks that are high level, a lot of those adventurers and things like that, have had a moment in their life probably where they've died and been brought back. So they're out of the picture. Like those people with the specific set of skills that could solve this problem are afflicted by it, so they're not available. So I think it makes so much. It's such a cool angle to explain that whole, why are we relying on level 1 people? It's because they're the only ones left that aren't afflicted by it because they haven't been killed. they haven't been brought back from the dead, so they're not affected, so they can help us. Anyway, really, really cool angle that I thought the storytellers came up with there. So talking about all that, the whole, this party's chosen because they're not affected, I kind of fudged that a little bit because I gave one of my players the death curse. They didn't know what it was when they built their character. I talked to them beforehand. I think I let them, I think the bargain was I let him start at level 2. So I kind of, gave him a thing, but I just told him in very, vague terms that his character had at one point died in the past and had been brought back. So as we learn more and more about the death curse, that character all of a sudden realizes, oh no, this curse is personal. This is affecting me, and Sindra Sylvain, a level 20 wizard, like one of the greatest, most powerful adventurers ever, is dying from it. I've got it. I gotta solve it. So it was kind of a fun little hook there that I infected one of my party members with the death curse. For most of the campaign, it didn't do much more than show blotches on his face to make him nervous. But as it progressed, as we got closer and closer to the tomb, it started. I would every rest they had, he would lose 1 hit point. So, and then eventually it was rolling dice. I don't think I ever got more than 1d4. But every time they rest, he'd have to 1d4 and take that off. So just to show that he was degenerating and it was having a real effect on him. Maybe I'll get him on later on one of these shows and he can tell us exactly how he felt about that. But I thought it was a fun way to just up the stakes, because eventually all these party members love this character and they're motivated to save him just as much as he's motivated to save himself. Another thing I tried to do, another kind of social engineering thing, and I'll admit it, I did try to engineer a few things, but really just, again, to make this death curse as personal as possible. I talked to each one of my players as they were building their characters, and I kind of gave them some background things that I wanted to see if they could work into their characters. I didn't tell them what specifically they needed to be or what their background was or anything like that, but I just wanted to salt in a few things that would make the death curse personal to them. So, there was one where a sibling had died, or there was one who had an adventurer friend or a teacher who had been, had come back, who had been raised, who then the player would realize the death curse was going to get to them. There was people about, there was a guardian. One of the players came up with a really, really great backstory. He was playing a Genasi character, and it was all about this tree of life that kind of every year renewed and, fed the village. And there was a wise man who would nurture the tree every year. So that was a thing he had to do, whether it was a spell or a technique or something, that he kept the tree alive. Well, at some point, that guy died and they weren't able to raise him. And so now this village who was dependent on that tree and really had no other means of sustenance or survival. So really he came to Chult to find this tree, so if he could see if he could splice it in or get some kind of seed. So his personal quest got even more dire when he realized that guy that can keep this tree alive can't ever be raised again. Without him, the village can't be sustained. Lots of little stories like that, and I don't know if I necessarily recommend that. I feel a little like it was probably a little more engineering than I needed to, but I wanted to make sure that it was a personal quest. This death curse wasn't just a, well, I guess we'll just move to the other side of the world and wait till it gets to us, and then, the end. I wanted it to be an urgent problem that had to be fixed and that they were all bought into. So lastly, one thing I would recommend on the death curse is that it gets worse and worse the closer you get to the tomb, the closer you get to the Soulmonger, the closer you get to the source of the curse. And so once my players got to the tomb of the 9 gods, death saves got worse, which seems cruel, and it is cruel, but what I said is failed death saves are 12 and under. So you have to roll higher than a 12 to save a death save, which just makes it even more terrifying if you're in death saves. Urgency. Like, I didn't want them to dilly-dally in the tomb all that much. Like, you could probably figure out how to, okay, we clear this, we go back and save. We go, we long rest, we come back. There needed to be urgency there, and they needed to realize that they were in the end game, that they were near this powerful necromantic device, this curse that was just, they could even totally fine, uninjured, feel like it was pulling at their spirits, their souls, to be sucked into it. Just keeping it terrifying. Just keeping it right on the tip of right at the front of their minds, that this was not something to be laughed at or taken lightly. Well, there we are, the end of another video, and might I just say, it was a really good one. Like, it was really, really on today. I'm really glad to have been a part of this, even a small part. Hope you're enjoying these videos. I'm having a great time making them. Maybe I'm the only one watching them. I bet most of the views are probably just me watching them over and over again, or maybe a couple of guilted family members, but I hope you're having a good time, and I hope you are excited about running this campaign. It's helping me. Please, like the video, probably just for me. I mean, it just helps me feel better about myself. Subscribe if you want to see more. That is even really, really awesome. I got a Patreon link for whatever reason. I don't think everybody's supposed to. It's part of the bylaws, but if you want to go there, that's great. I'll keep the videos coming. You keep watching them, and it's just going to keep working out swimmingly. Thank you so much. Talk to you later.